Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. It seems since November 5th, and I've been saying this every day on this show, it seems since November 5th, a lot of good things have been happening in this country, and in particular in the deep blue Marxist-run city of New York City. Just yesterday, we had the acquittal of Daniel Penny, the U.S. Marine, who was just doing a civic duty one day in 2022 when a man who was heavily intoxicated on narcotics got on a train and decided he was going to tell everybody on that train that he would kill them one way or another, and he didn't care about going to jail for the rest of his life. Former Marine Daniel Penny took matters into his own hand as he looked around and saw kids and women and children on the subway and newborn babies, and apprehended this suspect until the police got there. Well, Alvin Bragg, the Marxist New York district attorney, decided he was going to go ahead and prosecute him. Now, for whatever reason, he decided to prosecute him. I'm not sure. I have my speculations, which I'll keep to myself. But there's been far worse crimes that have happened in New York that Alvin Bragg declined to prosecute. So on Friday, one of the charges against him was dismissed against Penny. And we find out now today he's got a full acquittal. Black Lives Matter is not having it. As a matter of fact, they've already started to take to the streets. Take a listen to some of these folks.
Because to be real, they didn't even try. Once the lesser charge was removed, they came back an hour later and said it was deadlock. Less than an hour and 20 minutes later, they said not guilty. These wonderful white people, I hope they celebrate their Christmas while the Neely family is praying and asking God for comfort. God damn them and goddamn America.
Those goddamn white people. Imagine that. To use such words, what a disgrace, and what color has to do with it. Going back and listening to Mr. Penny in his depositions by police officer, didn't mention the man's color one time. So I'm not sure why these folks constantly feel the need to bring color into it. One of the founders of Black Lives Matters, says he's tired of it.
We need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
I'm tired.
It's truly remarkable the brain power and brain capacity these people have. It's always about color. It always comes down to color to these folks at the end of the day because there's nothing else they can do. It's clear the man, Mr. Neely, track record that's unmatched. In 2015, Jordan Neely kidnapped a 7-year-old girl. In 2019, Jordan Neely punched a 64-year-old man in the face. In 2021, Jordan Neely slugged a 67-year-old woman in the face as she exited the subway, breaking her nose and fracturing her orbital bone. Neely was arrested 44 times, but never faced real justice for terrorizing New Yorkers. So this is the man who just so happened to be African-American that was killed with the drugs in his system by U.S. Marine Daniel Penny. So a truly remarkable situation. Also in New York, the police have a man in custody who allegedly killed that CEO of United Healthcare. That's developing. They allegedly got him in Pennsylvania at a McDonald's as he was eating there. A bystander called it into the police, and they went ahead and apprehended him. I want to bring in our guest today. He's Mr. New York himself, a fellow New Yorker, Mark Simone. Mark, let's turn to him first before we get to this verdict. The alleged killer who reportedly shot down that CEO of United Healthcare with, now they're saying it's a ghost gun. His name's Luigi Mangione. They called him in a McDonald's in Pennsylvania. I guess I'll start with first. Shouldn't he have used the drive-through?
Well, the guy was so sloppy. He tried to dress and look like some sort of hitman, but a hitman's not supposed to go to Starbucks and leave DNA all over a cup, a water bottle. In the hotel, you can see he placed his hands on the counter of the hotel desk, leaving DNA all over there. Just an absolute mess as a hitman. We still don't know the full reason, the motive, anything. Obviously, he's a lunatic, but I can't wait to get to the bottom of this.
It's hard to believe, but it's funny, Mark, you're in the media, I'm in the media. They wanted to paint this guy as such a professional. And the only reason I maybe agreed with it in the inception that he could have been a professional was because he didn't stutter. When he shot those bullets, it was like nothing happened. A normal person who's not a professional assassin would have probably got spooked and ran. this man must have had some anger in his blood, cocking the damn gun back. But, then I looked at it as a gun owner myself. I watched how he shot the gun and how he cocked it back. And I said, that doesn't seem right. But now they're saying he used a ghost gun, a homemade gun. It's unbelievable because we now know, Mark, he's not a known assassin. He's not a professional assassin. He's an Ivy League UPenn guy who graduated valedictorian from a $35,000 a year high school in Towson, Maryland. And it took the New York Police Department and the FBI and these folks 4 days to get this guy. I mean, this guy could have went around doing a lot more damage, doing whatever the hell he wanted. He reported had a manifesto on him. And these people couldn't catch him, Mark. What the hell is our criminal justice system turned into?
Well, hey, we've seen rich, prep school sort of assassins before. Hinckley, who went after Reagan.
Right.
I think, but you got to give the cops credit. This guy was pretty good at eluding everything, but they caught him. It's less than a week, and they did catch the guy. There's one part of that video where just before the shooting, he's on the phone with somebody. I think that's what they're working on now. Who was he talking to? Did he have a co-conspirator? How did he know exactly when that guy was going to leave his hotel? How did he know to be ready then? It was hours before the conference. So there may be another person. I think that's the next thing we're going to find out.
I can't wait to find out his motive, too. It just doesn't make sense why someone who probably had a very bright future, these guys who go to UPenn and go to $35,000 high schools probably aren't like bottom of the barrel guys. So, the anger and hatred in these people's blood, I'd love to get to it. But from all accounts, it seems like this fellow is a communist, a Marxist. So we'll have to figure out what's going on. Now on a different front, Mark, happening in New York City, Alvin Bragg has just been dealt defeat after defeat after defeat. The other lady up in New York, Letitia James, has put on about 150 pounds since Donald Trump has won re-election, also not having a good time. But they bring this case against Daniel Penny, a U.S. Marine, Mark, a U.S. hero going to fight for the country. And they bring charges against him for apprehending a criminal. I read the charges off. That's just some of them. But arrested 44 times, Mark, 44 times. Yet we've got Black Lives Matter out here saying he's just a victimized black gentleman. What do you say to that?
Well, this whole incident was caused by Alvin Bragg, who on the first day in office put out that infamous memo to the staff. We will not seek carceral sentences. We won't put people in jail. Let them roam the streets. You talk to the NYPD, they'll tell you it's the same 2,700 criminals. They know who they are. They could round them up in 2 weeks if they wanted to, but they keep getting released. That's why this incident happened. Penny rescued African Americans on the train. African Americans helped restrain the guy with Daniel Penny. The real problem, I've talked to a lot of police about this. They're taught these restraint holds, choke holds, whatever you want to call them, how to hold, and they do it all the time. Every cop's had to do it 1,000 times. You know how to do it without really killing somebody. The difference is Penny had military training. They teach you a little differently in the military. On a battlefield, you're not worried about whether they go or not go. But it was Alvin Bragg that put him in this position. The woman he assigned to the case, the prosecutor, is even more woke and crazy than Alvin Bragg. So I'm glad and it's in the middle of Manhattan. You weren't sure what could happen, but glad the jury showed some common sense.
Unlike the jury that was in the Trump hush money case, because that was a travesty of justice. Mark, you and I are both New Yorkers. You probably don't take the subway as much as I do. But there's been many times, Mark, where I've gotten on there and I've looked at situations and I've seen situations where I might have to do something. But it's always in the back of my mind that if I go ahead and do something, I'm a law-abiding, gun-owning citizen here in New York. I don't carry my gun with me everywhere I am in New York. But, to be honest with you, I think about it in the back of my head, Mark, and I'm nervous. I'm nervous to ever have to pull out my gun, even in my own home, if I have to, God forbid, shoot somebody. I get nervous because I think about the repercussions of these woke DAs in New York City, where if you're the victim and you react, you're all of a sudden the perpetrator and you're all of a sudden the criminal. Do you think now we see an end put to this whole notion that the good guys are the bad guys after Alvin Bragg has been fed defeat after defeat after defeat?
The problem is, we hope with a good Samaritan on the train with us, but if you're the good Samaritan, even though he was acquitted, you see no one wants to go through what he just went through. He's now facing death threats from all over the place. We don't know what's going to happen in New York there's protesters already. We don't think they're organic. We think they're those paid for protesters. but we're worried about the rioting and anything that could happen now. So it's discouraging Good Samaritans. We don't have enough police, and the ones we do have, will tell you, they could arrest the guy, but he'll be back on the train the next day. It used to be after a robbery, they'd get the surveillance video from the store and then try to do some facial recognition, and maybe they could figure. Now when they get it, they go, "Oh, we know who this guy is. We've arrested him 12 times." So it's just a ridiculous circle that they're going around in.
The funny thing to me, and it's sad anyone's life is lost, but you got this guy, Jordan Neely's dad, coming out saying, he was just another victim. Where was his dad when this guy was on drugs? Where was his dad when this guy was arrested 44 times? Where was his dad when he punched a 65-year-old lady, a 64-year-old man in the face, or when he fractured the face of a 67-year-old woman? Where are the parents then, Mark? Where are the parents who care so much about their kids then?
Yeah, well, listen, they're suing. It's a wrongful death suit. But judges and attorneys tell me they're going to have a very, very tough case when you're talking about a homeless guy who didn't earn any income, didn't contribute to the family in any way, wasn't even there. The wrongful death suit, the judgment is going to be very, very hard to get.
He didn't contribute to society either. The man's on a subway station threatening to kill people. I got to be honest. If I'm in Daniel Penny's situation, I'm probably doing the same exact thing. And like I said, I often see it. But you had mentioned looting. We're probably going to see it. It's now Christmas time. We're all in the Christmas spirit. Louis Vuitton's got a brand new store. What is it, on 5th Avenue and 50th, something like that?
57th and 5th. It's
57th and 5th, right next to Trump Tower. I have to assume they're going to go ahead and make their way up to the new Louis Vuitton store. What do you think?
Listen, if you want to buy some stock, right, buy stock in a plywood company. They're going to have a hell of a Christmas. I'm also worried about January 6th, because you got to certify the election of Donald Trump. I'm worried something could happen there. And I hope, hopefully, you can't trust this administration. Hopefully they have enough security on it.
Yeah, we're going to take that. We're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to take that up on the other side of the break. President Trump not back yet in the White House, but he certainly seems like he's the president of the United States by all accounts. Spending the weekend over in France, meeting with some world leaders, yanking what's his name, Macron's shoulder out of its place with that handshake that he does so well. We're going to take all that up with Mark Simone, Mr. New York, a great radio host in New York City. You catch him each and every day. If you're not living in New York, you go ahead and catch him. Where is it, Mark? iHeartRadio.com?
Yeah, iHeartRadio, the iHeart app. You can hear us everywhere.
There you go. We're coming right back with Mark. Stay with us, folks.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
We're back, folks. We're talking with Mr. New York himself, the great Mark Simone. Mark, President Trump was over in France over the weekend with some of his folks, meeting with world leaders. Just looking at the pictures, it seemed it only got better after he sat down with Jill Biden and Ashley Biden, smiling, laughing. President Trump coming out afterwards saying they're very nice people. I beg to differ. But then, meeting with Macron, meeting with other world leaders, going to his house, making the place like his own. Macron asked him, "What do you want to drink?" Trump goes, "Give me a Coke." And he goes and walks around, sits down, hangs around for a little bit. All while Joe Biden is nowhere to be found. I mean, is Biden just giving up?
Well, in his defense, Joe Biden, they told him about Notre Dame. He went, but it turned out he went to South Bend, Indiana. A little confused, but he wanted to be there. And nobody can figure out why Jill Biden is eyeing Donald Trump. And she's really, really cozying up to him. I don't know what that's all about, unless they're and they know they're going to need some pardons at some point or something. But Trump was clearly dominant in all of those gatherings with all of those world leaders. I love the pictures because you see Macron not happy, Zelensky looking very unhappy, and Trump smiling, the only one smiling there. So it's a good sign.
You know why? Because they know the party's over. They absolutely know the slush fund's over. The fun and games are over. The free-for-all is over. The piggy bank United States that gets stepped all over, it's over. The days are over. You saw people there, and that's the way it should be. These people were sitting there getting ready to kiss the ring because the days of America being laughingstock are over. But it seems Joe Biden, as lame duck as he is, Mark, he's trying to get one more World War in before he gets to leave the White House. Bashar al-Assad fleeing Syria over the weekend, heading to Russia for a safe space. And President Trump tweeted out on Truth Social, America should have nothing to do with it because it has absolutely nothing to do with us. And what does Joe Biden do? He goes ahead and bombs the hell out of the place, Mark.
Well, I don't know if anybody's really keeping track of Hunter's activities, but if he's if he's working with defense contractors, why keep bombing? Why increase military efforts in Ukraine? It's defense contracts. Every time you drop a bomb, it's got to be replaced for $20 million. So this may be the final push, the final payoff. Defense contractors looking to use up a lot of weapons, so they have to be replaced. Yeah,
and you know what? It'll be the blame will all be on President Trump if he gets this thing started up and he gets a war started. I found a clip on Twitter this morning that I thought was so interesting. It was back from 2022, and it was back when we were getting ready for a government shutdown. And it's Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. It's the most cringeworthy interview, 7 minutes you'll ever see. We have about a minute and a half of it that I'm going to play for the audience right now. But just how they try to set up Trump. I'm going to play it and we're going to discuss. Take a listen.
Down the first time. And Nancy said something to him about he didn't understand about women. So, what?
Chuck was masterful.
Well,
he was masterful.
She set him up so I could go in for the kill.
No, but he was masterful. He's talking to him about the government shutdown and about immigrants and the rest. And he says, I'll take ownership of the shutdown.
Said, so, Mr. President, will you own the shutdown? Yes, I will. And that was, oh, thank you very much.
There are a series of moments that you saw firsthand. There's the clap, there's tearing up the speech, and then there is the famous picture. It's the meeting in the cabinet room where you stood up and confronted. Looking back at those moments, what was going through your mind?
He said he doesn't stand a chance.
Mark, the best part about it all was the joke was on them. Donald Trump was coming back, and Schumer, you were with them at the, what was it, the Al Smith dinner? And you saw Schumer sitting there, and this was before the election, sitting there like a little puppy boy, because he knew Trump was going to clean the clock of the Democrats. But that video, like I said, was back from 2020. They thought it was all a joke. We set them up. The truth of the matter is the IQ of both of them, Mark, together doesn't equal 100. And you look at Donald Trump's, and there's literally no match there. But this is the mentality of the Democrats. Do you think they're going to learn their lesson this time around?
No, and they kept, the way they were talking as if a government shutdown would terrify us. We want a government. We love these government shutdowns.
Yeah.
We've had 20, 30 of them in my lifetime. It doesn't bother anybody. We have it every year. It doesn't mean a thing. They shut down the whole private sector for about 8 months. They shut us all down during the pandemic for 8 months, and we didn't blink. We could shut them down for 8 days. And I was at that Al Smith dinner. One thing I know about Chuck Schumer, he always calls ahead to every event to make sure he has the right seat. He wants to know who he's sitting next to. And I've seen him do this. If it's going to be next to any Republican, he demands to go to another table. He won't sit. He had the seat next to Donald Trump, which means he asked for that. He requested that. And I was watching the whole night. He was all over Donald Trump.
They're like sick people. I sat next to Chuck on a plane one time. I thought it was interesting when I saw him pull out a flip phone. Nobody has a flip phone anymore, Mark. I don't care who you are. Everyone's got one of these. You got an iPhone, you got an Android, you got something. Nobody's got a flip phone anymore. So I see Chuck Schumer pull out this damn flip phone. We get off the plane, and security's there waiting for him. This is interesting. Why the hell? Turns out I got through security before he did, or customs before he did. But, I never trusted him ever since I saw him pick up that damn flip phone.
Well, there's only two people who use flip phones, senior citizens and mob guys who are doing some dirty deal, because it's hard to trace that flip phone. There's no record in it. So with Schumer, it could be a little of both.
Lindsey Graham apparently has one too. I don't know what he's using, but you mentioned military-industrial complex, and that's Lindsey Graham's people. Mark, the Democrats, there's a report out, other than the New York Post, that the Democrats are fuming as cavalier and selfish Biden is ceding power to Trump, despite some supporting transition agenda. We saw the Democrats start to go after Matt Gaetz. They succeeded. Matt Gaetz stepped down. Whatever the case was. There's a lot of people who are saying he never anticipated to take the job in the first place. It was just for other reasons. You then had Pete Hegseth, who you and I think probably both know from Fox News, pretty solidly decent guy. They went after him for drinking alcohol. Interesting, and having consensual relationships. Another interesting thing I thought was, pretty normal for people to drink alcohol and have consensual relationships. It seems that's getting nowhere. Their latest target now is Tulsi Gabbard. Do you think that they succeed? Tom Cotton tells us that everyone's going to get appointed, everyone's going to get put through that President Trump put forward. Do you think that's the case, or will you have an issue?
Absolutely. This is what they did to Kavanaugh. They have a whole network of people that they can bring forward. Women will claim this and that.
Right.
It sounds terrible. It's a smear campaign in the paper and the media and websites. It just sounds awful. Once you get into the hearings and everybody gets to take the stand and really talk and speak at length, this incident in San Francisco, once he's actually talking under oath and you point out the police thoroughly investigated, no charges.
Right.
And all they have are these anonymous sources supposedly worked at Fox News. He's going to come in with 25 people from Fox News on the record by name who will testify under oath that they never saw him drinking. I'm sure you could do that. I could do that. I worked with him a lot. I never saw him anything wrong with his behavior. So once you get into the actual hearings, all that stuff goes away.
But the crazy thing is, Mark, there's a lot of people. There's people who do far worse. And if Pete did have a drink on the job after work at an office party, if someone brought in a bottle of wine, there's far worse things, Mark, that people have done that are currently in our government. I mean, we all read what Hunter Biden was doing. We all read what Joe Biden was doing. You can go through the laptop from hell, allegations of Joe Biden showering with his niece or with the kids. I mean, all wild allegations inside that laptop. Taking money from Hunter Biden smoking crack with prostitutes, the father knowing about it, Hunter Biden owning a gun illegally, the father knowing about all it. There's far worse things that people do. Yet Pete Hegseth is a bad guy for drinking alcohol and having consensual sex. I mean,
they're talking about adultery and drinking, but if that's what he does, then he's got to be a Democrat. He's in the wrong party.
You're absolutely right. One of these folks who's a sick human being, I would think you often hear retribution, Mark. Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney, after endorsing and losing on November 5th, has been very quiet. But we hear from her this week. She's accused of destroying 117 documents regarding January 6th. January 6th, that insurrection they had at the Capitol. But she's now saying she should not go to jail. Destruction of evidence, but you went after President Trump for January 6th for doing absolutely nothing. You had everything to say on the documents case when President Trump took documents back to Mar-a-Lago that he was able to declassify. Yet now all of a sudden you shouldn't pay the price for being a criminal?
Well, you got to give Liz Cheney a lot of credit for somebody who has absolutely no personality, no relevance whatsoever. She lost the biggest landslide in her own home state where she grew up, which was like 99-1, for the biggest nobody in all of politics. She still managed to be in the news every day. She's headline news somehow, despite having absolutely no relevance. Trump's not the type to go after people. He didn't do it with Hillary Clinton. Yeah. I've known the guy for a million years. One reason he doesn't go after anybody. People like that, billionaires like that, never look in the rearview mirror. All they do is look forward. They never look backwards on anything. So I think he's got a lot of work to do. And that's what as he said, the retribution will be huge success.
It's funny. I read an article about you fairly long ago. And before I knew you, I really didn't know your political views. I thought you were just an entertainment guy and that was it. And I read this article one day, Mark Savone's a Trump sycophant. And I'm sitting there thinking like, Mark, as long as I know him, he doesn't go on air and just, he's not that kind of person. He tells the news and he makes some fun of it. There's far worse people that you can go after for being sycophants of either party If they go after Mark Simone for being a sycophant, I look at you more of as a socialite. You know everybody. You're friends with everybody. Democrats, Republicans. You happen to be friends with more Republicans, which is why you're a pretty straight shooter and not in jail. And then these guys are calling Mark a Trump sycophant. You mentioned Hillary Clinton, and I got to get to that because Bill Clinton, speaking of irrelevance, Bill Clinton is blaming the mainstream media for Hillary Clinton losing in 2016 for the reporting on her emails. I mean, we had James Comey come out, Mark, and exonerate this woman, even though he said she's a criminal. Yet it's the mainstream media's fault. Explain that one to me, Mark.
Well, he was able to say that because he was on MSNBC. He says this to Joe Scarborough. It was the bad publicity she got. And Scarborough's nodding like a bobblehead. Any normal person would say, wait a minute, Trump got 1,000 times more bad publicity than she did in the campaign. He got the worst publicity ever. Nobody ever took more incoming fire. What she got was 1,000,000th of what he got. So that's typical bad reporting from Scarborough that he didn't bring that up and then get Clinton's response.
You know, the Access Hollywood tape came out, and to Lou's credit, Lou is one of the only people who stuck by him. A lot of people shut their mouths, didn't say a word. Lou went further in and said, this is our man. It is what it is. Hillary Clinton strokes out outside her mystery machine, outside the 9/11 memorial, and you barely hear about it. I don't wish a stroke on anybody, but the woman literally strokes out. It's a lady who's going to become the president. What'd they say? 99-1. What was it Peter Strzok and Lisa Page said? 99-1. She was going to win. She strokes out, and the mainstream media doesn't cover it. They're still stuck on the 11th hour Access Hollywood tapes. Nobody had more bad press coverage than President Trump. It seems this time around, though, Joe Biden was so bad that they couldn't just sit by and not cover it. You'd mentioned on your show this week, Joe Scarborough had something to say a few months back. Give the audience some fun, Mark, about what you were talking about today.
It was about 6 months ago when they were talking about how bad Joe Biden was. He looked right into the camera, Joe Scarborough, and he said, listen, I've known this guy for years. And he said, the Brzezinskis have known him for 50 years. We've met with him. This is the best Joe Biden we've ever seen. He's better now than ever before. Well, obviously he's lying. The fact that he would tell such a preposterous lie and get so hyperbolic about it tells you what kind of bad journalist this guy is. He'll say anything on the air. I think that's why he's lost half his audience. Yeah. Not just obviously the Republicans, but his own Democratic viewers. I think they now realize this guy is misleading us all the time about everything.
Not that he ever did have an audience. The thing that I've been talking about every day on this show is when it came to them after they met with President Trump. Mark, if somebody calls somebody Hitler, if I called you Hitler, Mark, I would never associate with you again. I wouldn't want to see your face. I wouldn't text you. I wouldn't call you. I wouldn't want to see you. Yet these folks went out, Mark, for 9 years, 8 years. They called Donald Trump the biggest threat to democracy. They called him Hitler. They called him orange this, orange that. They called him a criminal. They called him a convicted felon. You go down the list, a misogynist, a racist, a xenophobe. You go down the list of things they called him. Yet at the drop of a pin, and by the way, they were the ones who asked for the meeting, they run to Mar-a-Lago. I mean, full speed down the road, run to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump. Does that not tell you what kind of people the Brzezinskis and the Scarboroughs are, that at the drop of a pin, when they can get a little bit of power, they run for it? And what I was told was, or I read somewhere, Scarborough was terrified about Gates becoming the attorney general because there's some documents about a car crash that he had some years ago where a lady was deceased and it was never investigated.
Oh, actually, the woman dropped dead in his office. They found a dead body in his office. She worked for him.
I was thinking of Kennedy.
Yeah. Again,
sorry, I've got a head cold.
It's common with Democrats. Somebody's dead somewhere. But he said it was investigated. Clearly, it was a heart attack. But he was the very powerful congressman from that district. So the investigation was a little flimsy. And heart attack, she was like 24 years old. It just didn't make any sense. He was worried that Trump would reopen that and do something about that. And he and Mika, they're just so opportunistic. They go to Mar-a-Lago to beg forgiveness, and Democrats don't realize if you want to go after somebody, and I think that's why they're losing half their audience, is people realize there was probably a case to be made against Trump and his policies and on the issues.
Yeah.
But they made up all this hyperbolic, hysterical nonsense. If I want to get somebody in trouble at work, if I went into the boss and said, he's been coming in late every day and he's not getting his work done, well, then he'll keep an eye on this guy. If I went in and said, the guy down there, Dan, he's Hitler, he's a mass murderer, he's going to wipe out everybody, he's a threat to the whole, he's going to think I'm nuts. I'm going to be in trouble then.
It's not even funny to laugh about it, but do they realize how many people Hitler killed? Do they realize the destruction that Hitler killed? You're comparing him to Donald Trump, a man who's tried to keep us out of any sort of international conflict possible, tried to pull our troops out of any international grounds that we're not supposed to be in because it's a waste of our time. And they're sitting there calling him Hitler as Joe Biden's now sitting in the Oval Office somewhere, wherever his makeshift Oval Office is, and bombing the hell out of Syria. Like, what? The things don't make any sense, Mark, and it's usually the Democrats projecting what they're about to do onto the Republicans on what they're not about to do. Do you think we're going to get some sort of retribution? I say retribution because it pisses people off, and I like to say it. We both know Donald Trump's far too nice of a guy. Do you think we're going to get any sort of retribution? And I'm not saying make up crimes like they did to him. I'm saying go after these Democrats who have caused destruction to this justice system that's irreparable. I mean, the fact that we have to scrub the FBI clean, Mark, the DOJ clean right now because of the destruction these people have done, it leaves a permanent stain, I think, on these institutions. Do you think we're going to get any retribution out of them?
Yeah, but that's not retribution. That's house cleaning. It's got to be.
I just say retribution because it pisses the Democrats off.
Yeah, but the FBI, great men and women work there. You got to just clean up that 8th floor with the leadership, and you're going to have to go into the Justice Department and clean out a lot of people that have been there for years. Now, a lot of them are threatening to quit, which is great and save us the trouble. But and don't think Matt Gaetz is out of it completely. He could always be brought in as a special counsel or something like that. You've got to clean all of that. That hornet's nest has to be cleaned out of there. This Doge thing, getting rid of the government waste, fraud, they'll tell you it's impossible. But tell that, when you tell Steve Jobs or a guy like Elon Musk or something's impossible, they light up and they go right to work. Same thing with Trump. They'll actually get this done.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys love a challenge. I say it all the time that the Democrats are going crazy that Trump's hanging around Elon Musk so much. I think it's amazing. It's the world's richest man, the world's smartest man, the smartest person to ever walk this earth, and they're complaining that Donald Trump's hanging out with him. You had mentioned cleaning out these institutions. I want to take one more quick break here. When we return, multiple DOJ and FBI officials weigh lawyering up as they're going to have to start defending themselves. Joe Biden is also trying to complicate it and hide some people in these agencies so that Donald Trump can't purge them completely. We're also going to take up the pardon of Hunter Biden and what it possibly means for the other Bidens. And will Hunter Biden ever sit before Congress and answer some questions that I think we all have answers to? We're coming right back with Mr. New York, Mark Simone. Stay with us.
Because of your overwhelming support, our $14.88 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing. Including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
Folks, we're back. We're talking with Mr. New York himself, Mark Simone. Mark, before we went to break, we had spoken a little bit about the DOJ and the FBI officials getting ready to lawyer up. If they did nothing wrong, Mark, what the hell are they so worried about?
If they did nothing wrong, that's the biggest if in the world. I think even if the president doesn't do it, I think Congress will do it. Congressional committee, put them all under oath, bring them in front of Congress. I think that's one reason Jim Jordan remained behind to maybe be the head of that committee. And really, even if you're not going to do anything as far as punishment, just get it all out in the open and just reveal what happened. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be looked at. And Hunter Biden. You don't even need to investigate. You know what he did. You know what Burisma paid him for. You know what China paid him for. Nobody in the world wanted a painting by Hunter Biden. It's an old scheme that they used to use it in the old payola days in rock and roll when you couldn't take the check anymore from the record promoter. This actually happened back then. I'm sure that's where Hunter got the idea. They all set up art galleries, and you'd go in there and buy a junk painting for $10,000. So it needs to be investigated by Congress. Put some Democrats on the committee, and bring it all out in the open.
Put some Democrats. I don't know where you find any that have a brain cell, Mark. If you're still a Democrat after what we've witnessed over the last 4 years, I say it, and you voted for a Democrat, you're just an idiot. I mean, there's no nice way to say it, Mark. If you voted for a Democrat after what we went through these last 4 years, whether it be gas prices, whether it be anything, whether it be these endless wars that we're in, whether it be the foreign policy, I mean, you could go down a litany of things that you just have to check off. You're an idiot. I'm sorry. There's no other way to put it. Joe Biden is apparently looking to protect some of these folks in these agencies who are going to be shown the door. According to Breitbart, the Biden administration appears to be working overtime within the federal agencies to put labor agreements in place before President-elect Donald Trump takes office in January. The agreements are designed to complicate Trump's stated goal of civil service reform as he begins to purge the deep state. The contract term can restrict federal agencies' discretion over employee management. So he's trying to bury these folks now for President Trump being able to get rid of them. And this is the issues that Trump had the first time was he had these people deeply entrenched and buried in these agencies, and they were undermining him. You look at that scum, Alexander Vindman, who sat there and recorded a phone call with Zelensky like he was some sort of hero. It's guys like that who should never be in office again. What do you say?
Well, they'll never learn, but don't ever try to con Donald Trump. Don't ever try to outmaneuver Donald Trump. It doesn't work. He's not Pete Buttigieg. This guy came from the toughest, roughest, most vicious place you could come from, the New York real estate world, where these killers in New York would put every booby trap into every agreement they ever made with him. He was always able to figure it out. And, and Vindman, what's his name? Andrew Vindman?
Alexander. And I think he's got a brother.
Vindman. Democrats are starting to realize they got conned by everybody. They saw this Vindman on TV as if he was the expert on all of this. Right. He didn't even work in the White House. He worked 17 buildings away. He was an idiot in a cubicle with a meaningless job just because they put a bunch of medals on his uniform and paraded him around. They've been lying to Democrats. They're not all idiots. Some of them in real life are professors and lawyers, but they're watching MSNBC. They really think there's a Project 2025 that Trump has something to do with. They think there was going to be a national abortion ban. I think that's why they're turning off MSNBC. They realize they got conned about everything.
Hey, Fark, you mentioned Project 25. I so many people who sit and try to troll me on Twitter and Instagram, and they'll send me direct messages and stuff about Project 2025. And this is before the election, and after the election, when President Trump started bringing in his people, I responded back to some of them. I said, "This is amazing. Project 25 is hard at work, and it's underway. We fooled all you guys. There was really such thing as Project 2025, and we're all in on it." And these people, Mark, absolutely went berserk. But if you go look through it, the Democrats try to demonize. I don't know if you had the chance to go look through Project 2025, but there was literally things in it like a deportation plan, which President Trump has said he was going to do for years. Fixing up the government reforms as for when it came to appropriations. That make perfect sense. But Democrats tried to demonize it like it was this manifesto, crazy plan that Donald Trump was coming in to take over the world. But I think Donald Trump now has got a team around him like we've never seen before, that we didn't see in 2016. You look at Tom Homan. I don't know if you ever had the honor to meet Tom Homan out of Fox, but he is just a funny guy. What you see is what you get with that guy. There's no bullshit about it, Mark. Straight edge, straight to the line, and he doesn't feed you any BS. Here's the point, and we'll get right to it. And it seems like President Trump's cabinet he's got forming around him right now is no BS, and these are all straight shooters. What's your take on how he's been doing so far when it comes to the cabinet?
Yeah, they've gotten so crazy, these Democrats. They don't understand simple, plain, old-fashioned law enforcement. They say to him, how are you going to ever round up and how are you ever going to deport? How could you possibly put men on the moon? It's just It's not that complicated. He'll do it. He'll get it done. And you're right. The president's got the best thing that ever happened was that he didn't win in 2020 because
I
he
agree.
would have done a great job. But you give a guy 4 years off
Yep.
to really think this through and figure it out. In the middle of the football game, you take a timeout, you got 30 seconds to think.
Right.
Imagine if you had 4 years to study the game film and think. So this is going to be the greatest second term ever. He's got the smartest people. Elon Musk it's like when George Washington had Ben Franklin around. Ben Franklin was the smartest guy around, the greatest inventor. And that's the same thing now. He's got Elon Musk around him all the time, and an incredible team. He knows what to watch out for. He knows everything to beware of in the swamp. This will be 12 years of work in 4 years. He'll get it done.
Yeah, and the other issue with 2020 is he would have had a no good first 2 years because he wouldn't have had the House. So it would have been nothing. Now he's got everything. He's got the Supreme Court. He's got the Congress. He's got the Senate. And we can go ahead and enact Project 2025 like we've all planned to do the whole entire time. You mentioned New York. Obviously, we're both New Yorkers. Eric Adams finds himself in a really weird place. And from what I understand, he's a friend of yours. Is that correct?
Yeah, I like the guy. In real life, he's a very cool guy, a great guy. He's a lot of fun to be around.
What's going on with him? I mean, has he had a midlife crisis? Is he terrified of going to jail? Does he want a pardon? I mean, every day I open the New York Post, Mark, I think that he can't get any crazier. And there he is, Eric Adams. The most recent thing is he's open to joining the Republican Party again, possibly. Well, I mean, what's happening with him?
He had been a Republican years ago. He was a cop for 14 years, so they tend to be conservative. But he wasn't out on the street patrolling. He makes it sound like that, but he was. Yeah. He worked in personnel, which is a area where you have a lot of power and influence. I think he's always been attracted to that. He's facing two things. One is this charge of getting upgrades in the hotel, the airline. That will go absolutely no place. Every politician gets that, so that means nothing. But the serious charge is foreign donations. That's illegal, and supposedly they were laundered through straw donors. The good thing for him is the U.S. attorney that brought all this is gone now.
Damian Williams.
Damian Williams, he quit early knowing Trump would throw him out. Trump's named a replacement, so he's got a good shot at that case being dropped. And Trump could, Trump's a great negotiator. He could exchange that drop in the case. You don't have to pardon him, just drop the case in exchange for total cooperation on the migrants and crime.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel, I get some people on the show, Roger Stone, one of them, who's here often, and he thinks Mayor Adams is corrupt as hell and as crooked as can be. I don't know where I stand on it. I'm not entirely sure. I want Mayor Adams to do a good job. I want Mayor Adams to get these illegals the hell out of our city. I want him to allow, so if a deal could be made where we clean up the city, I'm all for looking at the possibilities of this case. Eating too much turkey on Thanksgiving may or may not be a crime in my book. But I want to wrap up with one more thing, and that's the overseas NATO. President Trump not saying he'll pull us out of NATO. He's not giving us any sort of reassurances. Do you think Trump pulls out of NATO?
No, he's right about what he said about NATO. It's a lot of money to run NATO. We put in like $400 million, and they put in $1.50. All the other countries, it's got to stop. They got to put in their money. There's rules. It's supposed to be whatever percent of your GDP, and they're not kicking in the money. You've got these organizations. Nobody knows what the hell they do. The UN is the most useless thing. It's a VIP lounge for dictators. Right. And it's time somebody straighten these out. The climate the commission or whatever, they don't do anything. So Trump's got to put common sense into all of this.
I don't want to see a war ever, Mark. Hopefully in the rest of my lifetime, I never see a war again. But I would be curious to see in my next life a war and see what NATO does for us. See who's the first to come to the rescue when America's in trouble. Because I could almost bet your bottom dollar that none of them would be anywhere to be found. And you'd wind up getting a country like Russia helping us, to top it all off, or China. If we're, you know what I mean? To me, it's completely asinine. We go around giving out free money all along the world. You and I, as I keep saying, we live in New York. We see homeless people on the streets all day long. A lot of them veterans, a lot of them people who have been dealt raw hands, caught up in drugs, the whole 9 yards. Yet we're sitting over here giving billions and billions of dollars overseas for absolutely nothing. We're fighting a war for Ukraine. That's a losing war. There's no way Ukraine ever wins that war. Let's just be honest about it. There's no possible way Ukraine ever wins that war. The faster people start to realize that, I think we can get this thing toned down. I hope to God President Trump can get it done. But if there's anybody who can, it's Donald Trump. What do you think?
Absolutely. The same thing as Vietnam. It was a stalemate that would just go forever.
Right.
You have to negotiate a settlement. Most of these people don't want to do it because it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions in defense contracts, which they love. But Trump will get it done. That's one of the things he said about tariffs. You can use them to stop wars. Putin wants to end it. He's lost 700,000 soldiers. Trump will have it over, I guarantee it, by February 1st.
Yeah. I've been saying it a lot on this show, and I'm going to clip it if it comes true. If it's not, I'm going to pretend like I never said it. We just saw Bashar al-Assad flee Syria. I have been saying on this show since I've started doing it in August, one day we're going to see Zelensky get on a plane with duffel bags and never be seen again. Mark my words, it's going to happen. And it's going to be a lot of American money in that suitcase. Mark Simone, where can everybody listen to you each and every day? If they're not in New York, if they're in New York, let us all know.
Best app you could have on your phone, the iHeart app. You can hear me on there. You can hear the podcast of the show any place you get podcasts. Just type my name into any podcast site or listen live on iHeartRadio.
There you go. The great Mark Simone. Mark, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks to Mr. New York himself, the great Mark Simone. And he told you where you can go ahead and join him each and every day for his great show. iHeart is your best bet. We'll see you right back here tomorrow, folks. Same time, same place. You know where to find us. Our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. Tomorrow we're going to be joined by a great journalist from Breitbart. His name is Wendell Husbo. Great insight. He's been covering the Hunter Biden crime family, James Comer's quest to get truth, justice, and the American way against the Bidens. He joins us tomorrow right here on the Great America Show, so it's going to be an episode you won't want to miss. But we'll see you back here tomorrow, folks. Same time, same place. Until then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.